you're about to meet my friend, Peter Diamandis. He's a New York Times bestselling author of Abundance. The Future is Better Than You Think, and the upcoming book that's sure to be another bestseller, Bold, How to Go Big, Create Wealth, and Impact the World. Now, Peter is chairman and CEO of the X Prize Foundation, co-founder and vice chairman of the Human Longevity, Inc., co-founder and executive chairman of Singularity University, and co-founder and co-chairman of Planetary Resources. Now, his mission is to open the space frontier for humanity, and his personal motto is, the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. Now, today we're going to talk about how you can leverage the trends and massive changes that are taking place in the world today and become an exponential entrepreneur, spot huge opportunities, and take advantage of them. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your unbelievably busy schedule, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here, and it is an absolutely insane period of time. I think one of the impacts of technology is we get to do more and more and more, and
Yeah.
time gets filled 24/7.
I know it. You've got an unbelievable schedule, and I've been talking to Marissa about everything that's going on. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So what I'll do then is just be super efficient, because my objective is, of course, help you with this new book, but also just to provide some massive value to my team. So I think the first big question for you is, why Bold? And why is this title meaningful? And why did you write this book right now? Because it's packed with unbelievably great stuff. I actually left a crystal ball on my desk here because you're actually the trend noticer and genie that I really look to, because you just nail it. But since Abundance, you've been very, very busy. You've been on the road like crazy. So why Bold?
I appreciate the question. I mean, Abundance was a book that I co-authored with Stephen Kotler, hit the top New York Times list, and it really showed where the world's going to be in 20 or 30 years. Bold is a book that I was driven to write to show entrepreneurs, how do you get us there? Because today, one of the things I'm convinced is that entrepreneurs have the ability to change the world, and to become billionaires by helping a billion people. And the realization that today the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. And so if you understand that, and that also you have, and I discuss it. I have my copy of the book. I just got the hard copy today, as you
Yeah.
did. As if you understand that each of us now have access to tools and technologies that only governments and large corporations had 20 years ago. We are so empowered. And my goal is to help entrepreneurs know their power and then help them build business models that create wealth for them, but also help them do big, significant things. I mean, I'll just mention Larry Page, who's one of my board members at X Prize and one of my investors in my companies. He's obviously the CEO of Google. He was at the Singularity University founding conference, and he said, I have a simple measure right now, and I write about this in bold. He said, I have a simple measure right now. Are you trying to change the world? Yes or no? And he said 99.99999% of people, the answer is no. And he says, I think we need to be creating entrepreneurs whose mission it is to go and improve the world. And listen, make wealth at the same time as well. So that's what Bold is. It's you can go big, you can create wealth, and you can impact the world.
Okay. Well, that's huge, because I think it lends itself to the next question, which when you talked about Larry Page, is you have access right now to what I would regard as the most cutting edge technologies and probably the smartest and richest people in the world. So Elon Musk is one of them. He's in the book. You got Larry Page, as you mentioned, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, and a lot more. So what do you feel are the unique or different patterns that you're noticing in people, tech, and trends that you feel are indicators for future successes in the next 3 to 5 years? Because you obviously mentioned it, the first one, which is, are you planning or are you trying to change the world? But what else are you noticing that's just a consistent
Yeah, so great
theme?
question. And the book is outlined in three parts. The first part is about the technologies, and we teach you how you can access these technologies. You don't have to be a technologist, and we can talk about that in a few minutes if you like, Mike. The second part is on bold thinking. And in the second part of the book, I go in deep on a look at how four individuals who I happen to have reasonably good relationships with Larry Page, who I mentioned is an investor and a board member, Elon Musk, who is also a benefactor and a board member of X Prize, Richard Branson, who's one of our benefactors and bought the rights from the winning of Spaceship One, and then Jeff Bezos, who started a chapter of my first organization ever called SEDS, when he was at Princeton. And I look at these four individuals who've been amazing, right? None of these four started with wealth. They didn't come from a rich family. They didn't start with anything. They had an idea and they built multi-billion-dollar empires. So how did they do that? What did they use? And I found in my conversation with them a number of common attributes. And those common attributes I write about. And one of them is definitely passion and purpose. All of them did what they did not to make money. They did what they did because they were driven by passion, and they were willing to take risks that no one else would take. Another attribute is experimentation. These guys are constantly experimenting. I would say, I do that as well, and I drive my team to do that because if you don't experiment on a rapid basis, and Jeff Bezos said it best. He says, your success or our success at Amazon is a function of the number of experiments we do per year, per month, per week. And if we don't do more experiments that will fail and have a thick skin, if you would, I'm paraphrasing him, for failure, then we're not going to be moving the game forward. Another common attribute for all of them is they're all optimistic thinkers. They believe what I teach in Abundance, and we also continue in Bold, that the world is actually getting better at an extraordinary rate. And so they're willing to make investments. I'll remind everybody who's watching us in this conversation today that the news media's job is to deliver you every piece of negative news on the planet. And it's a real bummer, right? They're a drug pusher and their drug is negative news and it affects our mindset. So a lot of these people are really focused on the positives and the optimistic side of the equation. And there are lots of other attributes and detailed attributes about reducing risk and such, but I'll just touch on those. The other things that I in the sort of the bold billionaire thinking strategies that I touch on in Bold is I spend a lot of time looking at two amazing organizations, Lockheed Skunk Works, which transformed how we build stuff, went from zero to a working jet plane in 143 days in 1943. We can't write a contract in 143 days anymore. And then Google X. And Google X is an amazing organization. A friend, Astro Tello, runs Google X, and I spent a lot of time with him saying, how do you do this? And there are 8 innovation principles that Google uses. And so I talk about those 8 innovation principles in detail, and they actually are applicable to every single entrepreneur, every single CEO.
Nice, nice. So here's the next one then. And by the way, when you were talking about that, there's a great saying I love to hear, it doesn't sound great, but it's fail forward fast. And you're absolutely right. I look back at, my own personal successes. It's always been that I'm constantly putzing around with something, trying something out. And, there's a lot of invisible little failures that are happening all at once, and you're collecting enough data to actually make a decision and then go for it. So that's another reason why I love the title of the book. Bold means so many things. So that kind of leads me to a question more for the entrepreneur, the small business owner, or consultants, or folks that would be considered experts or in the expert industry. So what do you see for them in terms of big opportunities moving forward in those industries? When you look at, the person who's startup minded or wants to start something new, and a lot of people might look at some of the big ideas that you have in this book and think, oh, well, that's already too big for me. There's not enough space for me to take advantage of this anymore. So some of that is scarcity mindedness, but what do you say to folks like that? Where would you point your finger if you had, like, your sons, for example, were ready to start a business and they were maybe 19, 21, or 30 or whatever, reinventing themselves?
Sure. It's really important because one of my precepts is you don't need to be wealthy and you don't need to be a detailed technologist. You need to be passionate. You need to be curious. If you're passionate, curious, and driven to make a difference in the world, you can, in fact, do that today. So what do I mean by that? And in Bold, in the first part, where I'm talking about technology, I give example after example of entrepreneurs who started companies using 3D printing, using AI, using robotics, who did not have experience in these areas, because today you don't have to be the expert. Because the world, this hyper-connected world we're living in, you can crowdsource that expertise, right? If you're someone who has great marketing or great writing or great management or whatever your superhero skills are, you can say, listen, this is the vision. I see this amazing market. I'm looking for someone who's a machine learning expert. There are platforms like Experfy or Kaggle that you can get machine learning experts to partner with you. I don't know machine learning, but I'm using machine learning in everything I'm doing because I can reach out and find those people. Um, the other side is, besides crowdsourcing the genius that's out there, there's crowdfunding. If you have a great idea, example after example after example on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, where you can raise hundreds of thousands to millions. I've done two campaigns, one on Kickstarter, one on Indiegogo. The first one raised just over 1.5 million. The second one raised just about $1 million. And in this book, I write a chapter of literally step by step by step how to run a $1 million campaign. And it is very possible. It is very executable by anybody, by a small team. So you can go out there and come up with your brilliant idea and then test it in the marketplace, see people want to buy it, who pay you in advance, and then you go and take the execution risk and pull the team together to make it happen. It's an amazing time. And my goal is to encourage people. This is your turn. It's your turn to be bold. Go and do it.
Nice, nice. That's as something related to that we've been using lately very, very successfully is the idea of rapidly writing books. You can pre-publish them now on Amazon, so you can actually test out a business idea with zero risk in a matter of days, and actually sell the book and become a bestseller without even writing the book. So it kind of comes back to this idea of rapid prototyping, rapid market testing with zero risk.
If I could, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a great story that I like to tell about a woman who had an idea for a product, who went home it was a very simple product. It was an attachment for something. Went home, modeled it using a very simple software from 3D Systems, printed it on her 3D printer, took photographs of it, uploaded it, and offered it, and found out people wanted it, and then went into production. I mean, literally, you can turn a business idea on instantly and find out if the market wants it in a day. It's
Yeah.
extraordinary.
I love it. I love it. I truly believe we're not only living in the greatest time in human history, it's only getting better.
Yeah.
So here's another one, which again, I think the first impression, when I read the book, I mean, I poured through it really quickly so I could do this interview with you, but one of the things that I was thinking about as I was looking at technology. That's initially where I went to. And I took a step back, and as I was preparing, I was like, the thing that I admire most about you is you're an incredible networker. You're also an incredible marketer. And you're getting better all the time because you're willing to test out like book launches and product launches and everything else that's going on. So you're, adapting and adopting some of the best direct response marketing. I mean, you're just taking anything. Nothing is... everything should be afraid of you and everything's your friend at the same time. That's a good way of looking at it, right? So if you look at back and where you've gotten the most leverage and the most exposure and the greatest impact, where do you think it comes from? Because you're a very, very compelling speaker. You've obviously written two very good books and you surround yourself with great writers too. You're awesome at publicity. It's a huge part of what made X Prize so incredibly successful. I know a lot of the people you know, and it's just like you are connected right now with the most important people on the planet. So how the hell do you do it?
So, first of all, you're very kind. Thank you. I'm going to tell my mom to watch.
Yeah, nice.
uh, I think I teach this in part two of the book, which is bold mindset, right? I've started 17 companies over the last 25 years. I've raised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for profit, for nonprofit, and I teach how I did what I did in detail. And the realization, first of all, is I would attribute most all of my success to two attributes. It is passion, because I truly believe and love what I do. And I teach in this book about the importance of creating a massively transformative purpose, an MTP. It's a term that a good friend of mine from Singularity University, Salim Ismail, came up with, and I believe it and I use it. So I teach you to find what is your MTP. And I'll just give two examples right now. If you ask people, do you know what your purpose in life is? And by the way, you can have more than one, and your purpose in life can change, you know, every 5 years or 10 years, but it needs to be something that wakes you up in the morning and gets you so excited you can't wait to go and do this. It's meaningful for your life because if you're doing something because for your mom, for your dad, for your professor, for your wife, whatever it is, ultimately, when it gets tough, you're going to give up. And I know that some of the most successful things I've done have been overnight successes after 10 years of hard work, right?
Right.
It's not that easy. So, um, find your MTP. I would say, first of all, for those of you who don't know what your purpose in life is, I would ask you two questions. What did you want to do when you were a kid? Right? Because before the universe tells you what you need to do, what do you want to do back then? And the second is, I gave you $1 billion and said, I want you to go make a difference in the world with this $1 billion. Besides taking a bunch of vacations and buying homes and so, what would you do with it? What would you go out there and change the world? Would you go like I want to do to go and prospect asteroids or extend the human lifespan? Would you go and try and provide new ways of water, food, whatever it is? If you can figure that out, that connects you to your heart and your mind. So purpose and MTP is the first part. The second is, listen, doing big, bold things in the world are risky and it takes time. So stubbornness is equally important. It isn't being a top engineer or whatever. Having said all that, there are elements of key mindsets. And again, I go through this in bold. Over the years, I've collected something I call Peter's Laws. And Peter's Laws, I first saw Murphy's Laws,
Yep.
and a friend of mine had it in his wall. And I said, Murphy's Laws, man, if anything go wrong, it will. And I was like, that mindset is wrong. It's just, it will defeat you as an entrepreneur, it will defeat you as a human. And I went to my whiteboard and I wrote on the whiteboard, if anything can go wrong, fix it. To hell with Murphy.
Yeah.
And I wrote Peter's Law on top. And I've gotten, 28 different Peter's Laws now. The second one is when given a choice, take both.
Yeah.
Do it by the book, but be the author. And it goes on from there. And so these are mindset strategies. And if you can create a set of strategies that you believe that your go-to principles, because when the world gets tough, and when can I use a four-letter word in this
You sure
program?
can. I
When,
love the words.
okay, when
Anything
shit
that's.
hits the fan,
Oh yeah, that's easy.
okay, it's easy, fine.
Yeah.
When shit hits the fan, you retreat or you go to sort of a reaction. If you have a set of principles that you believe in, then you can go to those principles. So Peter's laws are in there, and I encourage people, steal from them, write your own, whatever you want to do. One of my favorite ones is the best way to predict the future is create it yourself,
Totally.
or an expert is someone who can tell you exactly how it can't be done. And these are truisms that I've learned over the years that help me do what I do. Anyway,
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So, the answer to this may be the same, but I'm going to ask it anyway because, again, I look at it and being a great marketer is a huge part of what's made you so successful because you're very, very smart about associating. And the next one, though, is being a great influencer. And I think being an influencer and being a great marketer are very different because being able to influence first gives you the ability to be a great marketer. So, and I think being bold is all about being seen, heard, read, viewed, and actually being listened to. And one of the things that you teach, and in a previous interview I did with you, you talked about super credibility.
yeah,
And
yeah.
without getting into super credibility, you could or you couldn't, but I'm going to ask you if you have any other suggestions for entrepreneurs that can super accelerate their results. Because that one is a great story, but I could easily give people access to that video and say, hey, watch that and let's move on to something else. But I'm going to give you a choice here. If you want to tell that story, great. Otherwise, if you've got some other influence strategies that you've found that are powerful, and again, you've evolved since the last time I saw you. Everything's changing all the time, and you're changing. I see that all the time. It's just you're not married to any one thing.
Being an influencer and a marketer, first of all, a lot of people are afraid to be a marketer. And if you believe in your ideas, it's important for you to be upfront with them and tell people why they're important and have the willingness to go and do that. Um, and I think ultimately, and again, I teach this in bold, that when I was just getting started, starting my first organization, Students for Exploration and Development of Space, or International Space University, and I had my ideas. One of the quick lessons I'll use as an example is, it's important for you to stage your projects. So, you know, and it's true in fundraising as well. If people don't know you, they're not going to back you. When people back you financially, or back you with their resources, or back you with your influence, it's a transfer of trust. They have to know you enough to trust you, to want to invest in you and care about you. And so the first place you go is family and friends who know you, and they will back you, and it's sort of friends and family money, if you would. So I was able to actually uh, build my first organization at a very low level, and the people who saw me succeed would then back me in the next one and the next one. So people who want to go from 0 to 1 million up front, the realization is, guys, you got to stage it. Go to people. You know, my favorite saying is, when you ask for money, you might get advice, but when you ask for advice, you might get money. Invite people to advise you, to watch you on your journey, to watch you have this first success, and then they care about you some. And then you can go to them next and say, okay, you saw me do that. This is what I want to do next. Would you help me with that? And so building it up this way. The second thing is, who delivers a message really matters. So in the early days of my building the International Space University, I actually went to my advisors. And when I had my founding conference for building, I was a 26-year-old kid building a university. Who the heck are you to do that? But I had these advisors. I wrote out the business plan with my two colleagues, Bob and Todd, and we then had those advisors deliver the ideas. So it was these PhDs, these heads of companies, or whatever, delivering our ideas to the rest of the room. And because they delivered it, people gave it much more credibility than if we delivered it. But we were there then to implement on the back end. So there are lots of mind hacks and tricks like this that you can learn that help you be an influencer, get your ideas out there, and help you market your products much better than anybody else.
I love that. The idea basically of renting credibility, which
You're
which is
renting credibility,
essentially,
right?
yeah.
And as you know, I have this whole story of giving above the line of super credibility, which is a really magic formula that I teach in detail in bold.
Yeah, I was surprised because again, I've had you talk about that before, but then when I was pouring through Bold, I saw how you actually mapped and graphed it out and explained how it works on a chart level. And I'm going to take this opportunity because this is a great segue, because I've got a couple more questions for you. But for you watching this right now, this is a great time to just say, I've got a link set up to go to boldbookinterview.com. One of the things that Peter's done is, number one, the book's available for pre-purchase right now, but also he's put together a series of videos that you can get for free just for registering there. So before I get into the other two questions here, Peter, can you tell everyone what those videos are about, and why this
Sure.
book is so important to get right now from your point of view?
Sure, happily. So first of all, like we are doing here, Mike, happy. My One of my missions is to get entrepreneurs to stop writing minuscule apps that are meaningless, and to go and do big, bold things. Right? Become a billionaire, but help a billion people in the process. The world's biggest problems, the world's biggest business opportunities, and that mantra I believe in, because that's what's going to drive us towards this world of abundance. And I want people to realize they can do bold things. They can do big things in the world. Um, and so I have three videos that you can get for free, just by clicking on that link. The first one is for you to understand the power of exponentials and exponential mindsets and exponential thinking. And I talk about the 6 Ds of exponential: digitization, deception, disruption, dematerialization, demonetization, and democratization. I teach how these 6 Ds can actually give you a view of where the future is going, and help you understand, for investment decisions, for which technologies you use, for where you go in your life, for whether the company you work for right now is going to be around in 3 or 4 years. So the first is about the 6 Ds and predicting the future. The second video, the second free training video, is on billionaire thinking strategies. And it's a lot more detail about what I've learned from working with, interviewing, watching and work and being with folks like Larry and Elon and Jeff and Richard, and what they have meant for me, and it's very much methodically the mindset that you need to understand. The third video is about creating your massively transformative purpose, your MTP, and moonshot thinking, and about how this can really lead to uh, creating significant things in your life. And it's probably the most important of the three videos. If you get a book through this link, you get a number of benefits. Number one, you're going to have a hour-long webinar for Q&A with me and Stephen Kotler, the co-authors of the book. The second is you get a second book for free. You get a copy of Abundance. We have 5,000 digital copies from the author to provide. So if you've read Abundance, I mean, from the publisher, if you've read Abundance, you can give that copy to your friend or family. And then you'll also get a digital download of chapter one of Bold immediately on as an audio file that you can start before the book arrives. So uh, for me, I'm trying to build a relationship with people who want to think differently, go big, go bold, change the world in an extraordinary way, and share the teachings I've had as I've been building businesses and really making an impact, which I'm very proud of.
Very nice. Well, I got to say, obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't love the book and love it. And just the 6Ds alone, going through that, I think this, if you start looking at the world through that lens after watching that video, it's going to enable you to start seeing patterns and predicting the future in ways you probably haven't been in the past. And that's what I love about it. It's really, really smart stuff. So here's I've got two more questions here for you, Peter. The
Sure.
first one is, I would suspect that all your life you've probably been one of the crazy ones, and I say that in the best way possible. And it wasn't until you've had your successes that you get to be the prophet in your own home and in your own neighborhood and town, right? To some degree. And where I'm leading with this, you don't have to say yes yet because I could be totally wrong. But a lot of what you talk about is space, and why do you think space exploration is so important, and when will we see results from some of the stuff that you're doing? It's because, again, a lot of people might say, well, that's crazy talk. We're not going to see any benefits for that for 30 years or 20 years or whatever it is. And you're here saying, nah, that ain't the case. So what is it that makes space so important to you? And why is it
Yeah.
so important to everyone who's watching this right now?
So listen, I have two massively transformative purposes. The first one throughout the majority of my life was to be part of inspiring and guiding humanity off the Earth, to open up the economic sphere of influence of space, and that remains the 9-year-old child inside me, but also now the investor, the industrialist, if you would. The second MTP, which is around the work I do at the X Prize Foundation, is around solving the world's grand challenges, which I believe we can do in food and water and energy and literacy and all of these areas. But space, I think, is, if you think about it, millions of years from now, we will look back at these next few decades as the moment in time that the human race moved irreversibly off the planet. We as a species are about to become a multiplanetary species. And the other side of it is we're also, all of our eggs are in one basket. Elon Musk is very famous for saying, now it's time for us to become a multiplanetary species. He's built SpaceX into a 10 plus billion-dollar company. His mission, the reason he built the company was to move to colonize Mars, basically. And he has set a goal within the next 12 years, 15 at the outmost, to privately take humans to Mars in significant numbers. Amazing. One of my companies that I'm very proud of is a company called Planetary Resources. We're backed by a dozen billionaires early on to build capabilities to identify and prospect near Earth asteroids. And these asteroids are rich in fuel and platinum group metals. People talk about, well, aren't we running out of, scare, you know, precious metals here on Earth? And the fact of the matter is that it's contextual, right? If you think about the fact that we might be here, but we have, if you look at the sum total, the Earth is a crumb in a supermarket filled with resources. And some of these asteroids are very rich in platinum, palladium, all of these, and are worth trillions of dollars. And in fact, it turns out that all the platinum and PGM, platinum group metal mining sites on the Earth are places where asteroids have impacted us before. The other benefit, by the way, of planetary resources is we developed the technology for finding, detecting, and moving asteroids before they hit us. So the whole Bruce Willis of it all, if you would.
Very nice. Well, it's a huge shift in mindset, and I think that's a big part of what makes you such an appealing author and personality. Is it is your abundance mindset, but it's also just being able to shift your point of view to looking at things through a different lens and just realizing the incredible abundance around us. And that's, I think, a big part of again, why I find your content in you so appealing and interesting. So this last question I have for you would be a little shorty, but I'm going to pretend for a moment that you were giving your son or your daughter some advice, or someone you know, like, and trust, who's of, let's say, average intelligence, doesn't come from money, influence, or power, and you're going to give them a recommendation on a direction to start a business that would make a difference, adhere to some of the principles and philosophies that you talk about, which is changing or affecting a billion people. So adhering to that, what would you recommend to them right now, knowing what you
Sure.
know now and giving them, no special privileges or resources or access?
Yeah, and it's a great question. I get asked it a lot when I give a lot of keynotes to
Sure.
organizations, associations, and so forth, and the CEO or the management team will come up and ask me, listen, what should my son or daughter study? What should they do? I have two 3.5-year-old boys at home,
Right.
twins, and I think about, will they go to college? What does it mean? Where are they going today? What should they study? Because the rate of change is so fast. I mean, and the realization I've had is that it's less important for you to become an expert in any one thing. The most important thing for my kids and anybody I can influence here is, does your child have a passion? I don't care what the passion is. It could be Barbie dolls. I have my business partner, Richard Garriott, uh, in Austin, Texas, and now in New York, was the son of an astronaut, right? An Apollo Skylab astronaut who never went to college because he played video games too much. But he ultimately became such a video game aficionado and started programming video games that he built $100 million video game company and bought a private ticket to the space station to become the first second generation astronaut, where his parents were probably writing him off as a video game junkie.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing. It's your passion that matters. So passion is number one, that I try and instill in my kids and understand it and support it, whatever it is. The second is curiosity. Because if the rate of change is so fast that, learning any one skill, being a doctor, being a lawyer, the stuff that used to be the sure thing before is going to be irrelevant as AI comes on or the things change. But if you're curious, you can continuously learn what you need to learn, interface with the technology, and curiosity and passion for me is the most important thing. Now, as to what companies to start, I would say, what are the world's biggest problems? And start a company around those things because the market is gigantic. I'll close with the following thought. In 2010, we had about 1.8 billion people connected on the internet. By 2020, we're going from 1.8 billion in 2010 to somewhere between 5 and 7 billion people. That means that 3 to 5 billion new people who've never been connected, have never seen a webcast, have never seen a YouTube video, have never done a Google search, who've never bought anything online, who have been disconnected, they're coming online. What are they going to want to buy? What are they going to want to know? What breakthrough ideas do they have that they're going to upload? So we're going to see 3 to 5 billion new consumers coming online. It's a massively long tail, tens of trillions of dollars, innovation engine. And so those 3 to 5 billion have all the same basic needs: water, food, energy, healthcare, literacy, information, communications. And so creating a product and service that's of use to them, that's using exponential technologies that Stephen and I talk about in Bold, for me is like riding a rising tsunami and having the chance to surf on top of it versus being crushed by it. So that's what I'm excited about. That's why I wrote Bold, and that's why I think all of us can make a significant difference in the world and have an amazing time doing it.
Awesome. Well, that alone was not only inspirational. I was thinking to myself because I have a 12-year-old son who he's driven by passion as well, and I can't wait to share that with Zach. So here's the next step for you watching right now is go to boldbookinterview.com. You can register, get a copy of the book. At a minimum, check out Peter's 3 videos. They're awesome, and you're just going to get exposed to some big thinking and some big ideas. So as Peter says, go bold. It's how to go big, create wealth, and impact in the world. But it's go bold or go home is my subtitle. So thank you, Peter. This is an awesome, awesome interview, and you are incredible.
Thank you, Mike. An honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to serving everybody watching. And I hope that the book and the videos are meaningful to you, your family, your partners. Have an amazing day.
Awesome.